Well, hi. A friend asked, very reasonably, to explain how I was fastening my sill plates to a concrete floor. And that's a fair question because I didn't always know how to do it. One thing I think it's really important for like an interior sill plate here in Pennsylvania or someplace that's not seismically active, that's important, is that you're not trying to hold the wall down with the sill plate. The wall is going to hold itself down. So you have that flat plate, okay? What you're trying to do is to keep it from sliding on the floor. If someone bumps the wall, you don't want the wall to move. So you're stabilizing it against the floor, okay? You're not holding it down against the floor, you're just stabilizing it. So that's kind of an important consideration for how much you fasten the floor to the sill plate to the floor, okay? Another thing is, because even though this is an interior wet space, I can still have insects and I have moisture. So the sill plates inside the barn are still pressure treated. And because they're pressure treated, I have to use corrosion resistant fasteners. Pressure treated wood will corrode weak steel, things like that. Something to keep in mind. So I'm using two methods for fastening the sill plates to the floor, and in a moment I'll move the camera and show you why. One method I'm using is a powder actuated tool fastener that is actually going into the concrete. So this goes through the wood and sets a steel rod into the concrete. I could have used a hammer drill and drilled a whole bunch of holes and then set anchors. That's a lot more work than I want to do. I've owned this from working on other jobs. It's just so much faster. So you can hammer drill and then drop anchors, but that's more involved. I just don't want to deal with it. So for me, it's pop it, and I'll show you this in a minute. The fasteners I'm using, because I have 2-inch thick sill plates, is I'm using long, they're blue on the end, but I'm using long, I think these are 3.5 inch. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're 3.5 inch hardened anchors. Okay, so you'll notice that there's a little rubber piecey thing here that holds it snug, centered in the barrel. You have the steel washer, which is the shoulder that fastens it to the plate. And these are not your typical nails. They're hardened, okay? So when they hit that concrete, they're not gonna mushroom. I've seen them mushroom on occasion. And that's because I was going into the wrong stuff. So I'm using long because I want at least 1 inch into the concrete. So take the width of your material and add 1 inch. To get these in there, this will all make sense later. I'm using yellow number 4 powder charges. Okay, anything less than this and you're gonna have to double tap it, like in the movies, because it will not go in all the way. You're gonna have to fire twice. So you might as well just buy a box of the number 4s. I think there's a number 5 out. That's kind of overkill for this. So I wouldn't, you can try it. It's certainly gonna do the job, but I'm using number 4 to go with those powder charges. Be right back. Found them. These are headlock screws. I got those, these at Lowe's. Okay, they're fine. What makes them really kind of neat is one, unlike a lag screw, their heads go flush. So when you're working, they don't get in the way. They have a nice, narrow, long shaft, and then they've got a lot of teeth to them. This narrow fastener has the certified mechanical strength of a 3/8 inch galvanized. So you're getting a lot of strength in a lower profile package, and that's kind of important. They give you the special tool, the head, to go on here, and I use an electric impact hammer, you know, brrr, and they just go in really sweet. I pre-drill the hole so that this can, in the wood of the sill plate, so this can just slide through it. And then when it touches the wood it's getting fastened to, that's what it's biting into. I don't need any restriction on this going through the wood. That's not the point. The point is to hold the wood to what is the form. I'll show you that in a minute. So I'm using headlocks. These are long. These are probably a little bit too long, but they're long enough for me. These are 4.5 inch, okay? But these definitely do a nice job. And you don't need a lot of them. You really don't, because remember, you're worried about that side-to-side motion. You're not worried about pull-out. And I'll speak to pull-out in just a moment. Now, because I'm building heated spaces that are wet spaces inside of a barn that is not heated, I wanted to put something underneath my sill plates to prevent moisture from going underneath them and to prevent cold air from going underneath them. And cold air will go underneath them. This is SillSeal. It's a very thin, not even 1/4 of an inch, 3/16, 1/8 of an inch foam. And you put that between your sill plate and the floor. I just ran over it with a staple gun and gently tacked it in place so it couldn't move while I was setting the sill plate in place. This is useful to me because I have gradient transitions between the pores that are sloped to go down to drains and the flat of the main garage aisle. And I wanted to make sure they sealed up well. When you're fastening your boards down, they're going to have a tendency to roll. So as you install them, you want a process that helps to flatten them. Okay, that's kind of a big deal. This I got again from Lowe's, but you can ask around for it. There could be competition, but and it comes in different widths depending for 2x4s or 2x6 or 6. It doesn't matter. But are we focusing? I hope so. But it's called SillSeal, and I paid about $10 for a 50-foot roll, which is going to be great. And honestly, I wish I'd remembered to put it on the outside walls. I have the advantage because I spray foam the walls. I'm not going to have air leakage there, and they really are high relative to the rest of the floor. Super important. Oh, the fasteners that I'm using are only good to prevent lateral motion. Okay, that is really important. If you put something on a wall and you decide these resist pullout, that's fine. These powder chargers do not resist pullout. You would not use them overhead. Okay. The only reason I can think of you might use them overhead is to temporarily tack something into place while you put in your pull-out resistant fasteners. Don't use these, okay? Just for lateral motion. So they're great for sill plates. They might be great if you're fastening a wall stud in a basement to hold up a wall. Okay, where you're not going to have pull out, yeah, fine, sure. But don't do that. The other thing with the powder charges is when you're working, you want a bit of a gap away from the edge or the concrete will spall and split. It's not really a big deal. Of all the ones I popped in, only one spalled. I wasn't really too worried about it. I'll caulk it, no big deal. So let me show you why what I'm doing is a wee bit odd, mostly. Okay, what you'll see here is This is the concrete pour for the barn, okay, the main aisle. This is the 2-inch stock form that holds the concrete. I have 2-inch insulation here. 2-inch? Yeah, should be. I have insulation here as a thermal break between the heated floor and the garage floor, okay? So I have 3 different materials. I've got the wood that I'm going to use the headlock screws into to fasten the sill plate to. I'm going to be bridging this piece of foam, which really has no structural value at all. It's for insulation. And now I'm getting into this concrete. I have a 6-inch standoff from these sections here in the concrete before I get into the electric wiring that heats the floor. And I always have to remember that. So when I bridge this with my piece of stock, I'm going to be popping it into this area here. The foam, I've already fastened it to my sill plate, but that foam will also help to seal up against these 2 here, because you can see that the foam is recessed relative to these 2 surfaces. So I want to get a nice snug seal there because I don't want air motion going back and forth. This is 2x6 stock. It's not pressure treated, but just to show you. Again, here's my foam. Here's the heated floor concrete, okay, where my hand is there. Here's the heated floor, and here's that wood. All of this concrete that's on the wood, I'll just chip that off so I get a nice surface to work with, okay? This foam will be stapled to the sill plate material, okay? No big deal. And you just pull it gently, and I put a few staples in every foot and a half. So as I'm positioning the sill plate, I'm not causing that foam to shift. Then you line it up, and before you start popping and screwing, you're going to want to mark this so that your headlock screws, where are they going to go, and pre-drill those holes, okay? You're going to pre-drill those holes. You are not going to be drilling into the form wood. You want that form wood to have all the bite possible, okay? So you're going to position this in place, and you're going to fasten the headlocks on. Now when you fasten the headlocks on, I recommend you go down to within 1 inch and stop. Don't fasten all the way down. This will make sense in a minute. Once you get them in and you've got them tacked in place so you can bump it and it's not going to move, that's where you're going to use your powder charges, and you're going to powder charge up next to it, okay? The reason you do one before the other is because you're going to, that little bit of looseness, you can put a foot on this and hold it and roll it towards the receiving surface, okay? Get it snug, and when you do the powder charge, that's going to push it down, and that will help to compress your foam underneath it. Once you've got the powder charge fasteners in place, then you'll come back and fasten in the headlocks. And you will have, and what you'll see is you're going to see this piece of wood, the sill plate will roll a little bit and compress on both sides. And what you'll have then is a good, durable seal on both sides. And then you can get to work framing up your wall, okay? Life is good. So that's how I'm doing sill plates. If I hadn't been using powder charge, I would have pre-drilled holes where I wanted to have drop-in anchors. I would have used a hammer drill to go in 1 inch, 1.5 inches. Don't have to go down deep. Remember, you don't want to go so deep that you're going through a moisture barrier or something. This is a 7-inch pour. But you just want to go deep enough. then you need to line up and get your sill plate positioned and dropped over those holes, and then you're going to tighten up on the nuts that come with them so that they expand into the concrete and give a really good tight hold on this. That's like way too much work. It's a lot of noise. It's raising silica dust because of the concrete. You don't need to go down that road. So I like the gun, the powder charge gun. So let's look at that powder charge gun a little bit more. Now, I have a beef with some of the manufacturers of these powder charge guns who say you have to have a license to operate one and blah, 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 blah. For a 22 caliber powder charge gun, you don't need a license. There is no legal government, a government that's not going to let you use it. If you're using it on a job site, your employer and their insurance company may require you to go through manufacturer's training for the powder charge gun you're using before they'll let you use it. That's a different story. But they really abuse the word permit. It's a certification. That's all it is. It says that you are factory trained and certified to safely use this tool. Okay, I really resent them using the word license. It's not a license. It is a certification. Nothing said. And maybe they'll stop anyone under 18, but anybody can walk into a big box store or a True Value hardware store or whatever and buy the rounds. These are blanks. These are 22 caliber blanks with so many grains of powder in them for so much force going in. There are different types of powder charge guns. If you're on a budget, you don't have. I got this because Lowe's discontinued Remington and we're selling it for 25 cents on the dollar, and I was like, that was easy. And I bought this one. It's been very good to me. You clean it with gun oil. It's another gun. So you clean it with gun oil. But what you have in here is there is really in the barrel, popper. It's not a continuous barrel like you think of in a, be careful, I need that part. It's not a continuous barrel like a weapon, okay? It does not, you can't look down through it and see the other end. There is a steel shaft in here, and when the powder charge goes off, that shaft is like the head of a hammer, and it will fly up against the head of your fastener and punch it into the material. Various calibers of this. There are very large calibers. There's a 38 caliber. That's kind of odd. They will probably ask to see your certificate of training before a company selling them will sell you the parts. But those will go steel into steel. Pretty cool. Anyway, but all it is a gunpowder operated hammer. Not a big deal, but at the end of the day, or after using it so much, you're going to want to break it down, clean it up a little bit. You're going to have gunpowder residue inside of it. Not a big deal. Now this one's nice because it's got a trigger on it. It's got a nice hold handle, so it help you get it in place. When you're pushing that point down, if you're pushing it into wood, I like to lean on it to set the point. So there's no question. Then I'm leaning on it when I pull the trigger, and it's smooth click, and it has some recoil. It's going to bump back because it's pushing through a resistive material. Not going to bump back a lot, but it will bump back, so you will be startled. I'm going to show you what it's like when it fastens. This isn't a real fastening because I'm running out of some stuff, but you'll get the idea. So first of all, most importantly, I have to put it back together again. If you've had a firearm safety class or whatnot, treat it with respect, okay? Don't be shooting arrows out the head or whatnot. No, don't dry fire it. Don't fire this without something else holding back because you're going to damage the hammer, okay? You don't want to be damaging the hammer. Okay, back together again. This is me. First of all, always read the manual. I don't have the manual handy. It's in my bag behind me. But I always put the projectile in first and then the charge, just on the off chance that I can't accidentally shoot the gun off by mishandling while I'm putting the projectile in, okay? And the projectile goes in, and those little rubber collars help you hold the projectile in place. You're going to pull the bolt open, and you're going to drop your round in that little hole that goes in, and you're going to just firmly, gently close the receiver, okay? Now, it's got a little bit of a spring to it, and I just pulled that out. It's got a little spring to it. That's actually, because I can pull, there's no round in it, but if I pull the trigger now, there's nothing for it to work against. And the chamber is clear, but if I push it, now I have something. So part of your safety is you may have a true bona fide safety on the side of it right here, but it has to be pushed firmly against the work before you can pull the trigger and make it work, okay? That's super important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up with a light charge going into some light material so you get an example of the boom bang. What's it all about? Now I have the safety on, but I'm going to push it down where I want it, and it's over the concrete. This is good. I'm going to go out here a little bit more. It's over the concrete. I'm going to set that. I'm setting that tip in place so it's where I want it to be. I'm going to release the safety. Can't see it with my finger. Here we go. So I'm in the fire position now. I'm going to push down. A little smell of gunpowder there. The nail is through this material. It's anchored into the concrete, and it's got a really nice heavy steel shoulder washer here to help hold your work in place. When I open the bolt, there's your spent round. There's the spent cartridge. Okay, so I hope that helps you visualize how I fastened my sill plates down. It's really convenient having the form there, and if it was just the form and concrete on both sides, it'd be a lot easier, but with that foam thermal brake installed, I have to have a wide sill plate to bridge both sides of it. When I get to door openings and the like, I will buy aluminum actually. I'll buy aluminum sill plates so that I can run a pallet jack and such over those areas smoothly. But for where there's going to be a wall, I mean, I need to have the wood there. That's the base for the wall itself, and then there'll be the insulation and the like. So there are a lot of videos on using powder actuated tools on the internet. I really strongly recommend you watch them. You can get these online. You can get these at your local store. The gun I have looks like a gun, all right? You also can buy them where it's just like a stick and you put the charge in it. It's called a hammer actuated tool. And what you do is you put your round in, you set it, and you hit the end with the hammer. And your hammer provides the percussion, because you still got that spring, but instead of a trigger, you hit it with the hammer, and that sets off the charge. They're very affordable, and they work, and they fit in a toolbox. So you may prefer that. I just got a good deal on this, and this ended up costing the same price as a hammer tool. Why wouldn't they get the nicer gun that came with the carry bag and everything else? That was a no-brainer. So other things you can do if you're not going to lift the wall again, you could put down glue. You could certainly put down a caulk under the sill plate before you set the sill plate in place so that you get a bead to prevent moisture wicking under the sill plate, especially if you're using it for cider. Yeah, that way you don't have to worry about getting any kind of crud growing underneath your walls. you can protect it that way. It's a little bit too cold for me to be putting that down now, but these walls, in addition to the SillSeal, will be getting a bead line of a sealant material, okay? Because it has to adhere to the pressure-treated wood and to the concrete, so it'll get treated. And that's how they go down. And they are, once they're done, they're done. I've never tried to pull one up. I know I could, because again, those anchors, as strong as they are, aren't going to, I can work against them, but that's not why I put them down. They're going to be there for a very long time. So that's it. The hammer actuated tools are much cheaper than the trigger tool that you saw me use. One thing that's really nice is that these charges are universal in the 22 caliber tools. That's really important. Okay, so regardless of which brand you buy, if they don't use the standard 22 caliber cartridge, don't buy it, because everybody else is playing on the same page. You just get the 22 caliber charges. I'm using yellow charges for my deeper ones. I have green and brown for little short ones. I don't use them very often, but what happens is if I tap one down, it doesn't set all the way, I might put a lower charge in to finish the job because it's not as hard on the gun. That's just experience. That's it. Take care. I wish you a good day. I wish you good luck with your projects, and be kind. We'll see you later then. Bye all.